Good afternoon, colleagues. We have a very short, 3 short bill hearings today, and we have voting after. So depending on how vociferous we are, we can get through this in a short term so you guys can actually go get lunch. I'm going to start with the first bill, which is House Bill 1354, Delegate Simmons. If you have a panel, please bring them.
I can come up with it.
Oh, yes, I want to make sure we welcome the members of Health and Government Operations. Is there just 2 of y'all? They didn't bring a Republican, but I'm sure there's one around.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you would allow for me to allow my intern to present on the bill. Thank you. Delegate Simmons, District 12B, presenting. I don't feel like a lot of unfamiliar faces.
Yeah, so the first time you testify in front of this committee, you're going to sidestep it?
I'm learning. I've been watching you.
Whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you to the Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Economic Matters Committee. My name is Michael DeWeaver. I'm an intern with Delegate Simmons, and I'm presenting testimony today on his behalf. House Bill 1354 provides essential protections for cemeteries by ensuring responsible oversight in their sale, transfer, or acquisition. Cemeteries are more than just plots of land. They are sacred spaces that hold the memories and legacies of our loved ones. As such, we must safeguard them from improper handling and ensure they remain respected and maintained for future generations. One key provision of this bill is the requirement that cemetery owners obtain approval from the Director of the Office of Cemetery Oversight before selling or transferring a cemetery. This measure ensures that any transaction involving a cemetery is conducted responsibly, carefully considering the cemetery's historical, cultural, and community significance. Without such oversight, there is a risk of neglect, improper land use, or loss of access for families wishing to visit their loved ones' final resting places. Additionally, it is important to mention that in too many cases, abandoned cemeteries fall into disrepair, becoming overgrown, vandalized, or even repurposed without due consideration. By allowing for governmental acquisition under specific circumstances, this bill creates a pathway for preserving and restoring these critical sites, ensuring they receive the care and respect that they deserve. This legislation also establishes precise requirements for any sale, transfer, or acquisition of a cemetery. Such regulations are vital to preventing commercial exploitation, ensuring that cemetery operations remain transparent, and maintaining public trust in how these spaces are managed. I urge the committee to support House Bill 1354 and move it forward for passage. This bill is a necessary step in preserving the dignity of our cemeteries, protecting the interests of families and communities, and ensuring responsible oversight of these sacred spaces. Thank you for your time and consideration.
You're next, ma'am.
Me?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wilson, Vice Chairman, and members of the Economics Matters Committee. Thank you for allowing me to testify. For the record, I'm Christine Simmons. I've been representing Anne Arundel Genealogical Society. I'm on the board of Anne Arundel Genealogical Society and the Coalition to Protect Maryland Burial Sites. I'm also a member of the Maryland Cemetery Legislative Associates. I've been researching cemeteries for 40 years and have visited hundreds of cemeteries throughout Maryland. One of the most pressing issues throughout Maryland is the lack of known current ownership. The current law needs to be updated, allowing counties to assume ownership, creating a clear title, and then to transfer ownership to descendants or preservation groups who would assume any costs involved in the transfer process. I'm going to give you 2 examples of issues in Anne Arundel County. A neighbor who lived next to a small family cemetery would park her car within the cemetery, stating she had been maintaining it for years and was entitled to park anywhere. The family found out, located documentation of their ownership, and erected a fence around the cemetery. Similarly, a neighbor who lived next to another small family cemetery would park his heavy-duty work vehicles on the cemetery property. A descendant who has been trying to obtain ownership of the cemetery for 3 years has been cut out of the process. The county declared that the ownership is unknown. He's hired a real estate attorney, worked with a title abstractor, had a survey done, all at his own expense. The county planning and zoning is well aware of this cemetery, but unable to issue citations or issue cease and desist orders due to the lack of ownership. A fence cannot be installed. All those fixes require the owner to file a complaint or issue permission. The last known owner was the developer of the community surrounding it, who died in 1920s. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee chair, vice chair, and committee members. My name is Jennifer Johnson, and I am the founder of Friends of St. Peter's Cemetery. My cemetery is located in West Baltimore, and it was founded in 1851 and is the final resting place for about 15,000 souls. Cemeteries are sacred, and while sadly we live in a world where sometimes our sacred spaces are not treated properly, we as human beings should remain respectful of all sacred spaces, including and certainly not limited to cemeteries. House Bill 1354 allows for an organized process for sale, transfer, or government acquisition of a cemetery, and for that cemetery to remain the sacred space and be safely protected. The one thing constant in life is change. Just because an owner changes does not mean that a burial ground needs to change. This legislation seeks to protect the space and allow the souls buried in a space to not be disturbed. On the odd occasion when a burial ground needs to be moved, this process seeks to establish a mechanism by which that move will happen while ensuring respect and dignity in the exhumation, transfer, and reburial process. I ask for your committee's favorable support for House Bill 1354, business regulations, cemeteries, requirements for sale or transfer, or government acquisition. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is David Zinner. I'm the coordinator of the Maryland Cemetery Legislative Advocates. You can read more about our group in submitted written testimony. We're a really great group, by the way. Let me pose a question to the committee. What do golf courses and cemeteries have in common? And the answer is they're both wide open pieces of land attractive for developers. Can a developer sell a golf course to build townhouses? Of course. However, cemeteries are different from golf courses. Developers might only see what is above the ground, but cemeteries are often like icebergs, right? What you see above the ground may be only 10% of the total. 90% of the cemetery might be below ground, and we care a lot about what's under the ground surface. After a very pleasant conversation with Tom Ballantine from the Maryland Commercial Real Estate Developers Association, I realized that when we were drafting the bill, we were trying to protect descendants. And this bill does more. It protects both the seller and the buyer. And you're saying, David, how's that possible? And I say, it's easy, right? The seller has an obligation for full disclosure. And when they go through the process that we've outlined, they will be covered. And the buyer doesn't want a surprise discovery of bones that could stop a major construction project. So they'll be protected too. So this bill really has three beneficiaries, right? The descendants who are protected, the buyer, and the seller. So we think that there's lots of options within this bill. Descendants may decide they want to purchase the cemetery and preserve it, or they might agree to have their loved ones disinterred and moved to a new location. What's important is that they have a seat at the table and become an integral part of the process. Cemeteries reflect the history of our people. Cemeteries are a sacred space, a space to honor those who have died, a place for contemplation and remembrance for friends and relatives. Cemeteries are our visible inheritance of the past and our obligation to protect into the future. This bill establishes a fair process. Please support HB 1354.
You go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wilson, and all members of the committee. My name is Yvonne Fisher. I'm a member of the Maryland Cemetery Legislative Advocates. Our group has extensive and overwhelming cemetery knowledge. I'm also a member of the Advisory Council for the Office of Cemetery Oversight for 9 years. My testimony today is not as a representative of OCO. Sales and transfers of cemeteries should have a more strict procedural process that must be documented and approved by the Department of Cemetery Oversight. There are no regulations or legal requirements to assure that this process does not leave room for abuses and illegal use of cemeteries, but mostly removing of remains. Case in point, if you...
Just a little bit, I'm sorry.
Nope, okay. Case in point, if you purchase a cemetery that has a large amount of land that appears to be unused, that land will require an ecological or some type of survey to assure that there are no burials there before any structure or a demolition can occur. There should be requirements that an owner must inform every family member and loved ones that are termed in the cemetery of any and all proposed sales, transfers, and ownership and/or construction. This gives the family time to make inquiries, obtain information about the new proprietors that are proposed in purchasing the cemetery. It is to the benefit of everyone in the state of Maryland to be assured that their loved ones are protected from any and all abuse, neglect, and unlawful use of a cemetery, which will result from a sale that is not completed in a legal and binding purpose. There's no legal procedure that could possibly not eliminate these issues, and it is extremely important that we look at all those possibilities. My last statement is you must assure that procedures and processes are in place for not only those who have passed away and are now interned in the cemetery, but for those of us who someday will be in that position. The industry of buying individuals and buying and purchasing cemeteries is critical to our history.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question on the fiscal note. The fiscal note says that they can handle the requirements of the bill with existing resources, but Department of Labor says they would have to hire 2 individuals to carry out the requirements of the bill. Have you talked with Department of Labor?
Sure, we have. So we've had a meeting just last week with the Office of Cemetery Oversight along with the Department of Labor in reference to this. We do believe that the DLS has it right in their assessment that this is something that can be done at a minimum cost dealing with existing processes that they currently have. Unfortunately, due to the fact that DLS feels that this is an increase to them far as responsibility with something that should already be taking place, we're in line to agree with DLS, not in the Office of Cemetery Oversight, but we continue to work with them to try to resolve it between the 2 agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the bill sponsor, Health and Government Operations Committee. Wonderful bill. Cemetery, mainly abandoned ones, as we know, that can pose significant public health risks, including the improper handling of human remains, groundwater contamination, and the spread of infectious diseases. Since this bill establishes new regulation for sale, transfer, and government acquisition of cemetery, what specific public health safeguards are implemented to ensure the handling of remains, especially during disinterment and reinterment, complies with health and safety standards?
Sure, I'm going to let David.
So the rules around disinterment involve the health department to some degree. And I think that as the Office of Cemetery Oversight starts to implement this, they're going to have to make up a number of regulations about how this should be done properly. Currently, the law refers to disinterments that must be done by either a funeral director or an archaeologist or a cemetery. So we have professionals in the field who are fully trained and who know how to do this, and I think they're very aware of what the implications are. So I believe that we don't need to specify further exactly what needs to be done because they're specified in other parts of the law.
Mr. Chair, if I may, would you be open to a friendly amendment requiring the director in consultation with the Maryland Department of Health to establish guidelines ensuring safe and dignified handling of human remains. We have not seen that for a while, you know?
Yeah, I think that would be a wonderful addition. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
One other comment, there is a bill.
That's okay, usually, that can be taken offline, if there's no question, it's not really a dialogue back and forth, usually what executive is speaking, we allow them to ask questions, our colleagues to ask questions, there's no question posed. Thank you very much. Delegate Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, just looking at the testimony, there are a number of organizations, and in particular, several churches that have asked for some amendments. Have those been taken into consideration?
Yes, there are amendments filed as well. Hopefully, y'all had received them. If not, we'll make sure we get those amendments.
So those amendments will address the concerns?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Absolutely, yep.
I believe that concludes the favorables panel. Thank you guys very much. Thank you for the presentation. Young man, you did a great job. Next, we're moving on to the favorable amendments. We have Reverend Adebayo. We also have Marshall Coleman Adebayo and Paul Pumphrey. Ma'am?
Yeah, unfortunately, my husband, Dr. Adebayo, was not able to come today because of illness, and Paul Pumphrey was in the same situation. But we do have a colleague here, Harvey Matthews, who came in their place. So we wondered, and he also submitted testimony to this committee. So we're wondering if he could also speak.
I believe, honestly, if he submitted testimony, we'll take care of it. That's fine.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Sure. My name is Dr. Marcia Coleman Adebayo. I am the president of Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, BACC. I submit testimony on Bill HB 1354. We commend the bill's co-sponsor, Delegate Gary Simmons, for introducing bills aimed at protecting Black burial grounds. The Maryland Supreme Court on August 30th, 2024, stated in the case of BACC versus the Housing Opportunities Commission that, quote, this case concerns a desecrated burial ground in Montgomery County, Maryland. The ground known as Moses Cemetery was a historic Black burial place that contained interments, including formerly enslaved persons, end quote. Montgomery County Circuit Court Judge Carla Smith also confirmed Moses African Cemetery in her decision. BACC's ability to access the judicial process was centered to our ability to advance the sanctity of African burial grounds. BACC is alarmed at the prospect that the Director of Cemeteries could be the final arbiter in cases concerning African ancestors. We would not be able to support this bill. The fact that Moses Cemetery is being openly desecrated in Bethesda should be a deep source of shame for all of us. Montgomery County elected officials at all levels have refused to take action. If we had not taken our case to court, Moses Cemetery would have been destroyed forever. The Washington Post editorial on Moses Cemetery argued that descendant communities must be the primary decision makers. In fact, as we gather here today, bulldozers and cranes are destroying our cemetery. We must have judicial review. Thank you.
I see no questions, ma'am. Again, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I believe that concludes this bill hearing. Next, we have Delegate Rose, and I believe former Delegate Sid Saab. And ma'am, if you have a panel, please bring them.
Good afternoon. We are back to talking about eyelashes again this year. We had a similar bill last year, and this bill seeks to clarify some language and make things a little bit more streamlined and available in this particular industry. One thing I wanted to bring up is what this bill is not. We're not talking about like false eyelashes. So we're not talking about the stick-on type. This is a very specific, and I will let the professionals explain, but I have a lot of girlfriends that have had this done, and it's a very long process usually, and it's putting those individual lashes onto the eyelid. And after learning about this and having friends gone through it, it can be very dangerous. So the training is extremely important. This will bring this industry into a very professional status. There are boutiques that simply work on this particular service, and I think this will make it a great opportunity for small businesses to pop up and be able to provide these services. The license will only cost $56, and it will be, that's the suggestion, is $56. So it's not a high amount of money to, so it's not a barrier for some success. Let's see, I'm going to be brief today because we had a long day. I'm not even going to try to pronounce a lot of the words that are used. And so for the record, Delegate April Rose, but I'm asking for your support for House Bill 1223, and I will be here to answer questions if I can, and then I'm going to pass it on to the professionals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure to be here at the ECM Committee. For the record, my name is Sid Saab. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Esthetician Alliance in full support of House Bill 2023. This bill is not new to this committee. It was passed in 2024 in the House. It stalled in the Senate, and then it was passed in the Senate in 2023, and then didn't make it to the House. So we are bringing it back. I would like to also, for the interest of time, to mention there's some more people that we chose for them not to testify because there are going to be a lot of Me Too's. If you can stand up, and they're here in support of this bill. And I appreciate your consideration, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Hello, committee. My name is Charity Flaskamp, and I'm here for the third year in a row in support of HB 1232. I'm excited to see Delegate Balladrama and Lily Cui again this year. I've been practicing cosmetology in the state of Maryland for 22 years. I started my career in Baltimore County. 10 years ago, I moved out to Frederick County, where I own and operate 2 licensed salons. I'm here today in support, like I said, which would create a lash technician license for Maryland. For over a decade, lash extension services have gone unregulated here, unlike every other state in the U.S. and all of our neighboring states, which have strict licensing standards. As a result, anyone can call themselves a lash tech, and even worse, a lash educator with no formal education, leading to what we've called a Wild West scenario, where not only individuals are crossing into our state from surrounding states that require licenses to work unregulated, but also practicing unsafely and have caused harm to consumers. Applying lash extensions is a meticulous skill that requires proper education. Without regulation, there are risks like eye infection, allergic reactions, permanent tissue damage, and even blindness. There's a science to everything we do, and cosmetologists and estheticians are the scientists of hair, skin, and nails. Lashes are hair that grows out of a follicle that is connected to a blood supply. HB 1232 would require 100 state hours of accredited training to perform lash extensions in our state, covering safety, sanitation, and application techniques. Afterwards, technicians would have to take an exam to prove their competency. This would allow individuals who are already practicing lashes to continue to practice lashes without significant income loss, with just 1 short month course. In comparison, a traditional cosmetology license is 1,500 hours or a year and a half. A traditional esthetician program is 600 hours or 6 months. My last statement is this bill isn't about making things harder for lash techs. It's about protecting consumers and raising industry standards across the state. This will ensure anyone offering lash extensions in Maryland that they are properly trained, helping to bring Maryland up to speed with the rest of our country. I urge you to vote in favor to ensure safer and more professional lash extension services, and thank you so much for seeing me again here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Paulino, and I stand before you today as a proud female entrepreneur and representative of Maryland's vibrant minority-owned business community. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. My journey in the eyelash industry has been transformative, allowing me to build a business that empowers countless women striving to achieve their dreams. However, I am deeply concerned about the financial and educational burdens imposed by current regulations on our industry. The current regulation requires all lash artists to obtain an esthetician or cosmetology license, an education costing between $10,000 and $25,000. This is not just an expense. It is a barrier that stifles industry growth and disproportionately impacts female minority-owned businesses. Moreover, these programs primarily focus on skincare, facials, and waxing skills unrelated to the specialized techniques of eyelash application. Mandating this license creates an unnecessary burden without improving service quality or safety. The result, small businesses will struggle to hire, forcing many to shut down, eliminating jobs, and driving services underground. Many small business owners, including myself, have invested our life savings to build and sustain our businesses. If this legislation does not pass, many of us will be forced to close our doors due to the inability to meet licensing requirements. This will not only devastate business owners, but also eliminate job opportunities for aspiring beauty professionals. House Bill 1223 offers a solution. This bill proposes a limited license tailored specifically for lash professionals, establishing clear health and safety standards while preserving economic opportunities. By implementing proper regulations, we can ensure consumer protection without destroying an industry that has provided countless women with financial independence and business ownership. By passing House Bill 1223, you ensure the right regulations are in place to protect consumers while also safeguarding the livelihoods of hardworking business owners. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and members of the committee. My name is Melanie Adams. I stand before you today as the proud owner of two successful lash studios in Northern Maryland that employ 20 hardworking and talented women. I am here to seek support in passing House Bill 1223, a bill that is critical, excuse me, not just for business owners like myself, but for consumers, beauty professionals, and the industry as a whole. A dedicated license such as this will establish clear industry standards, ensuring that every lash artist is properly trained in hygiene, safe application, and technique, protecting both professionals and clientele. But beyond safety, this bill is about fairness and opportunity. Prior to October 2024, Maryland did not require any specific licensing to perform eyelash extensions. Under those regulations, I built a thriving business and helped create stable, well-paying careers for women, careers that are now at risk. Excuse me. Without the passage of this bill, more than half of my employees will be forced to attend esthetician school, costing upwards of $25,000 and requiring 6 months to a year of training, the majority of which focuses on facials and waxing, not lash extensions, the service that they specialize in. For many of these women, this is not a stepping stone, it is a career-ending barrier. The financial burden, the temporary loss of income, and the time commitment required to attend school will force many of them to leave the profession entirely. I have already had heartbreaking conversations with high-earning, dedicated employees who have told me that if the bill does not pass, they will have no choice but to abandon the careers they have built. It is not reasonable nor necessary to require extensive and unrelated training for professionals who are already skilled and thriving in their field. We need regulation that makes sense, one that ensures safety and professionalism without putting people out of work. With your support in passing House Bill 1223, you are not only protecting jobs and small businesses, you are raising industry standards in a way that is fair, practical, and beneficial to all. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the lady on the end, you said you have two, and where in Frederick?
In Frederick County?
Yeah, in the county or in the city?
In the city.
In the city, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, close enough.
Yeah.
So maybe the delegate Rose or former delegate Saab can answer. So are you required to have a license now? Like you had mentioned, there's a more comprehensive license that covers a bunch of different areas that's very expensive. Does that include the eyelash, like working within that?
I can answer that.
Well,
Okay,
I think right now you have to have the full cosmetology license,
Or
correct?
aesthetics license.
Or aesthetics license.
And that just changed last year when we opened back up the language and added lash extension services to our definition of services that we could provide. So
Okay.
as of right now, what these young ladies are saying is that their artists that are currently not licensed would be forced to take a 6-month or a year-and-a-half program, as opposed to what this bill is proposing, which would only be a 100-hour program and extensively cover lash extensions only. So you don't have to learn everything else. You can just learn what you have been doing all of these years and still be successful without an interruption in income.
So it'd be like a carve out. So, but.
You got it.
I'm assuming you guys have already looked at just potentially just removing, I guess it's technical to where you need some sort of license, right? Because
Absolutely.
you probably discussed just removing the eyelash portion out of that existing license altogether, but that's probably not going to cut it. Is that, okay, okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to that too?
Mr. Saab, can you respond to that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, delegate. So prior to last year, when the esthetician scope of practice was changed, eyelash language was put in there because some estheticians also do it. Unfortunately, the State Board of Cosmetology misinterpreted the bill or the intent of the bill, and they required every lash artist to become an esthetician or a cosmetologist. It's mostly esthetician because that's the only language. Esthetician is only mentioned in the eyelash is only mentioned in the esthetician scope of practice. So because there was also a similar bill that was in this committee that was going to, that passed the House, but it didn't make it in the Senate, so it would have made it okay. So the board recognized that problem, and you, in your folder, you will have a letter of support from them. And by recognizing that, they also delayed the implementation of the existing law from last year until October 2025 to allow this body to make the fix and go through with the limited license bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See no other questions, I believe that, Delegate Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Saab, former Delegate Saab, have you tried the service?
I have, and it's very uplifting.
Are there other serious questions? Delegate Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's so many shops that's doing eyelashes, and I know, I have individual on myself. What I need to know is when I go there, I have to go on a Pacific day because they will tell me everybody in this shop cannot do individual lashes. They have to be trained. So all these shops, nails, when you get your nails done, they have been notified that they must do this. And the ladies that don't know how to do them, they said, I'm sorry, you have to come back on another day when the young lady who has the license. Now, I've seen the license on the wall, so they will put the license up so you can see it, because since last time we put this bill in, you had me curious. I went and started looking for their license, and I asked each and every one of you, are you licensed? You've been trained? How many hours? And they looked at me like I was crazy. But, I know that now they are now being trained, and they have to have so many hours to have this training, and everybody cannot do that. But there's no penalty of anybody that don't have their license, is it? No, it's not in the bill?
I don't believe there's a penalty in the bill.
But
I was going to just say, there's two different, so there's training. So for instance, the salon that I go to, they actually, most of them are hired right out of high school from our Career and Tech Center. They go through extensive training as apprentices. But what happens is, while they're doing all of the training, often, a nail technician, she loves doing nails. She doesn't want to have to put out the money to become fully licensed to do all of the other services. And so this gives an opportunity for a much lower threshold of being able to be licensed and to have a job that's doing this specific service that's not as extensive as all of the other wonderful things we can get done at the salon.
Okay, thank you. And the word is out, and they know that they have to have a license now, and everybody just cannot do it. But I never asked about a penalty, just in case they want so many ladies come in here to get nails done, and they says, I want eyelashes too, but you really don't know until you look up there and ask them specifically, is this is the one who's licensed to do this, you know, and where is the license, and look at it, you know. So it's being done since last time we had this bill. I just want you to know, okay? So that's good. Thank you very much, and I'm glad that all you ladies are here. One extension.
Well, thank you. I do believe that that concludes this bill hearing. I see no further questions. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Is Delegate Conaway, I do not see him. Does he have a representative here? Interesting. All right, committee brief indulgence. We're definitely not going to delay much longer. He's obviously the only witness on his bill. I'm just trying to give him a fair shot. I do know judiciary tends to get busy, so, but if we don't hear anything back in the next 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to move on.
y'all. Let me hurry up in here. Well, thank you very much. I'm Delegate Conaway here to present House Bill 1232. And we're having a terrible problem with these bags and bag fees. I don't know if I sent you some receipts, but our receipts are really not reflecting what's going on. Therefore, we're not getting all of the tax revenue that we need. And what I'm saying in the bill is that they have to provide you a receipt for your bags and the number of bags that you're being charged for, and the breakdown of how much tax money is being charged. And with that, I'll answer any questions if I can. If there are no questions, I would ask for a favorable. And if you need some receipts, I can send them to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry for making you wait. Thank you.
Favorable? Price?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, honorable committee members. Sarah Price here on behalf of the Maryland Retailers Alliance. Our perspective on this bill is that it is unnecessary. Every single jurisdiction that has passed a carryout bag law that requires some sort of tax or fee to be charged also requires that charge to be itemized on the receipt. It is entirely possible that there are businesses that are not complying with that local law, but it is in place in every jurisdiction where a charge is required. Additionally, all of those laws set penalties based on local statute. So the penalties that would be set in this bill could possibly be a double jeopardy situation if businesses are found to be out of compliance with this specific portion of the local law. But ultimately, we just feel that it's unnecessary as it's already a requirement in all of the local jurisdictions. And I know that it is included in the model language that the Sierra Club shares with potential jurisdictions that are interested in passing the legislation. So we would urge an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes this hearing and concludes the bills for the day. Colleagues, please stick around. We're going to get ready to do a voting session. Thank you.